Now we've come to another part of David's life whenever David captures the king. Let's just recap here. David is on the run because King Saul is after David. King Saul is angry, he's frustrated, he's jealous, and more than anything, he wants to kill David. So David either stays with the king and gets killed, or he runs for his life. And he's very wise, he runs for his life. And over time, a short time, he gets about 600 men who willingly volunteer to come with David, who he could trust with his life. And they would go around the mountains and the villages, and they would help the Israelite people, protect them from thieves, for example, if they were shepherds, protect from thieves, they would help people. They were doing what a good king should do. But David was just a normal man. He was living his life like a fugitive, running from the king, an innocent man on the run. And whenever Saul, even though he should have been defending his country and looking after his country, he spent all his energy on the run after David, in the forest, in the woods, in the mountains, wherever David was. And because the priest helped David without realizing it, the priest and 85 priests were killed that day because they helped David. Saul's mind was completely gone with it, and that he was killing innocent people. And his heart was torn because his friends were now being hurt and killed because of him. But he could not give up. He needed to keep living, keep surviving, and keep fighting for his own right and for his own life. And David realized, he met up with Jonathan, and he realized their friendship, while their friendship would last forever, they could no longer be seen together, because then Jonathan's life would be in danger as well. And that broke David's heart, that he had to leave his friend and move on with his own life on the run. From those people he once loved, he would do anything for him. They turned against him, and now he was on the run for his own life and his own survival. One day David was up in the mountains and he saw King Saul's army coming for him. So he hid in the cave and he couldn't believe it. But as Saul's army got closer, he heard Saul saying he was tired, and Saul came into the cave, and there he lay down and rested. And David's men whispered to David, "There's a king, kill him!" But David said, "No, he's God's anointed. I would never ever touch God's anointed king." And he went over with his knife, and he could have killed him, but he simply cut a little bit off his coat, just like that, and went back into the darkness. And the king never saw him or heard him. The king walks out and walks back down the mountain, and David shouts, "Yo-ho! Saul! Are you looking for me? I've got your cloth. Look!" Saul couldn't believe it. "I could have killed you, but I didn't, because you're the king and I respect you. Why are you chasing me? Why are you hounding me?" And Saul said, "David, I'm sorry. I'll not do it again." When Saul went back down, he was angry again. He said, "Who does David think he is? I'm going to still go after him." And he went into another place. And some days later, David came across Saul's camp. And he saw where they were camping. He saw where they were hiding. And he took one of his soldiers with him right into the camp. And again, he tiptoed right up to the very body of Saul where he was sleeping, and he lifted his sword, and he could have killed him on the spot, just like that, but he didn't. He took his water and he took his sword and he tiptoed back up into the mountain, and he shouted in the middle of the night, "Saul, wake up!" And all the soldiers woke up with their swords, and Saul went to grab his sword, but it wasn't there. David said, "Are you looking for your sword or your water? Because I've got them both." And Saul realized David could have killed him twice. "Saul," he shouted, "I could have killed you, but I didn't, because I love you as a king, I respect you as a king. Why are you after me? I've done nothing to harm you or to hurt you." And Saul promised he wouldn't do it again, but David could not trust the king. His word was not enough. He could not trust the king, and David kept running. And then this man here, he was called, whenever this man came across, he was called Nabal. We'll read this in 1 Samuel 25. This was a man, an example of how David protected him and helped him look after his sheep during the hard winter, and protected his shepherds from people hurting them or killing them or attacking them. David's 600 men done this. And then after the winter was over, normally the shepherds would give David's army food that they can survive. Whenever David's men, 10 of them, went to ask Nabal for some food for David's army, he said, "Who does David think he is? He's just someone on the run. Anyone that runs away from the king doesn't deserve anyone's help." And he wouldn't give him any food. Even though David's men protected him and looked after him for months, He wouldn't give him any food. That's all he wanted, food for his men to survive. Do you see when the news was brought back to David? David was furious. Who does he think he is? Nabal, we protected him for months. And he had 600 men. He told 200 to stay here, and he took 400 men with him. And he says, we will teach Nabal a lesson, the selfish rascal of a farmer. He was supposed to give him food. And on his way, David was angry, and he never sought the Lord. He was acting on his own strength. But whenever Nabal's wife Abigail heard about this here, she said, he'll come. David is a mighty man. He'll kill every one of us. And my husband is an arrogant, selfish man. And she went herself, and she got bread and grapes and juice and all sorts of food, loads of it, and loaded up her horses and her donkeys. And she went out to meet David, and she met him. She said, David, I apologize for my husband. He's an ignorant man. He's a jealous man. He's a selfish man. Please take this food, and please do not kill him. Please do not kill us. It's because of my husband. He acted wrongly. We respect and we love what you've done for us. Please don't do this. And David saw in this woman somebody different, and he respected, and immediately he came to his senses. She said, one day, David, you're going to be king, and if you kill this man, it will haunt you, because it's going to be, if you kill an innocent man, it's wrong. And David came to his senses, and he thanked her. And do you know what happened as they continued? This man, his wife Abigail, went back to him and said, do you realize David was on his way here with 400 men to kill you? The Bible says his heart stopped, and within 10 days the man died of a heart attack. And when the news was brought to David that Abigail's husband was dead, see, David didn't have to kill him. The Lord had him to die because of his selfishness. And David sent for Abigail and said, you're a widow, your husband's dead. And he said, I would like to marry you. He fell in love with the woman, and right away she didn't hesitate. She said yes, and David was able to get married to Abigail, and he loved her. He needed a wise woman, a good woman, and that's exactly what God gave him.